Hey. Oh my god. Oh my god. Just to get to this point is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't even know if like this thing is even angled right, if like everything is okay, because I'm just tired. I hope I look right. Yeah. You see, now I look at like faceless YouTubers and I'm like, y'all was onto something, because this ain't it. Welcome back, guys. It's Life with Ariel and Shy. Obviously, I'm the only one here today, and that's because myself and Shy were going through a transitioning period within our lives, and because of that, it has been a little difficult to film together and also film frequently. So what we are going to be talking about today is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and the topic that I'll be talking about today is why I don't use social media. In the sense that I have these, but I have them almost in a way like a necessity, not because I really wanted to have them, but it's like you not having them these days is like so weird. And sometimes these social media platforms is also for business and school purposes for me, so it was like I have to eventually get them. But I'm gonna break down my reasoning as to why. But first I'm gonna give a little background to myself, which will kind of give some idea as to why these things is just not for me. So inspiration to do this video came from another video by this lady, this YouTuber, who was saying why I choose to be boring, or why I choose to live a boring life. And I was like, you know, I can relate, because like so many persons call my life boring, or you know, just like criticize me for not using a lot of the social media platforms that persons use. I have come into so many conversations where like person would be like, oh, give me your Instagram, like let's connect on Instagram, and I'm like, okay, sure, here's my Instagram, but I really don't post often or use it often. And they're like, what, how many followers do you have? And I tell them my very, very small number. And in a way I kind of feel like bad, because I guess I'm supposed to have more, but more into that later. You know, I am a 2000s child. I was born in the year 2000 exactly. So technology, by the time I was an adolescent going into teenage years and adulthood, there was I guess you could call it a technology boom. When I was going into high school, that was when Facebook just dropped and the social media craze was beginning to rise. I always wanted to be a part of it, but in those days I was like, I didn't really have money like that. I don't want to call myself broke, but you know, like I didn't have the money like that. So how, like whenever I had a phone, is either a phone my parents would buy me or one that I could afford. I'm going to school, I don't get allowances, but anyway, my money mostly comes from savings, from lunch money, and based on the amount of money that I could save from lunch money, I'd often buy like some very cheap smartphones, and they can do what the other smartphones can do, but you know, the cheaper the phone, the poorer the camera quality and the available space. So I would download Facebook, but then it'd be like slowing up my phone and taking up all the space, so I'd eventually have to delete it. Then with the camera quality thing that I'm telling you about, well, back when I was like a teenager and using Facebook, the camera quality wasn't something that I was too bothered about. So you take your poor camera quality selfie and post it. But now as like technology increases and people have better camera qualities, you kind of feel a bit more self-conscious about how your pictures come out. And it seems like everybody now is like a photographer, so now the pictures are more artsy looking, there's a better aesthetic to it, and whatever. And I just couldn't participate because your girl was tight on cash. The other reason, reason number 3, is because I was a very ambitious student and I wanted to have very good grades, because I always said to myself I want to study medicine, and at the time I was like, I want to get a scholarship to Cuba, because Jamaica and Cuba have this like scholarship thing where if you have really good grades you can get into the very competitive programs like medicine. And I wanted to do it. Medicine is expensive, no matter where you go in the world. So I wanted a scholarship, and to get a scholarship you have to have awesome grades. So how am I gonna be like just doing lots of stuff on social media while focusing on school? Like one thing would have to give, and I'd always give up the social media for school because I want to have a stable career and do the job that I always dreamed about doing. Which leads to point number 4, reason number 4. Social media is very time consuming. You can go on Instagram and be like, oh, I'm just gonna spend like 15 minutes, and you just like scroll, and the next thing you know, you've been scrolling for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours. Like, it's so easy to like be on social media longer than you had planned. And the one that I use the most, I use YouTube mostly, and like it can be so addicting. Like you watch one video and you're like, okay, I'll just watch one more, then you watch another and you're like, oh, but this topic looks really interesting, I have to see it. And you say it's not that long, it's just 15 minutes, and then next thing you know you watch 10-15 minutes videos and you miss out on the time that you should be studying or doing something productive or reading, bettering your mind, because you're stuck on social media. And I recognized this and I was like, no, like this can't continue. The program that I want to do is very difficult, and also you have to practice a lot to get it. It's not so much like a reading subject where you read it and you just write essays, and of course you have to memorize stuff, but with a science-based subject it has a lot to do with practice. So you have a lot more time that you need to dedicate to it. Reason number 5, I think it's 5. I'm gonna stop counting from here because I'm getting confused. Social media doesn't really help to better you. Okay, first of all, social media has introduced a lot of helpful stuff. It helps to disseminate information a lot quicker. It helps to bring light to very important issues. Social media can be a great way to advertise businesses and so on. But if you're not doing anything like that, social media sometimes can bring out the worst in people and cause you to not be bettering your mind. And it depends on what you're doing on social media too. Like, we're just putting garbage into our mind, we're filling our mind with junk food, we're watching lots of funny videos, we're watching drama and gossip, we're filling our minds with images of perfection when that's not the reality. We're becoming envious of others sometimes because we see their perfect lives and we want that for ourselves. And that leads to the next point, where for me, sometimes social media brings on a feeling of low self-esteem, I guess you could say, or it might lead me to compare myself to others, or it may make me feel like my validation comes from the amount of likes that you get on a picture or how much persons are following you. and stuff like that. Like cognitively, I know like my value is not in that, but then you post a picture and you have, say, 1,000 people following you and only 50 people like the picture. You're like, was it a nice picture? And mind you, I don't even have like 1,000 people following me on any social media. It doesn't mean that it's a bad picture. It could be that most of the persons that saw it, most of the persons that follow you didn't see it, or they just didn't like it or whatever. But the thing is, it kind of plays on your mind and you're like, maybe the picture was ugly, and then you start thinking that you are ugly or not that pretty or whatever. Or you get attached to like the many likes that you usually get or the many views on a video that you get. And whenever it drops, you start to think that the work that you put in is not valuable because it's not getting that attention. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes social media messes up our value system and how we value ourselves, our image, and the work that we put in, because now we are saying it's valuable only when it gets a lot of attention and praise from other persons, and if it's not getting that attention and praise, then it's not as valuable. So I think that whenever I step away from social media, it helps to ground myself in reality, because social media really isn't reality. It's what people want you to see, and the worst parts of their day or their life, they don't put it out there. Some do, but for the majority they don't. And the part of social media not being reality, even the images that we're seeing, like, it's not like how some of these people even look in real life. So imagine you're sitting there and saying, oh, I don't look as great in photos as XYZ, and they're face tuning all their pictures. Human beings have flaws in their face, they have flaws in their body. Some things are fixable and others are just how you were naturally born, and that's what makes you unique. And the thing is, based on the trend that's going on and in that time period of life, some of the flaws that you have may be considered trendy. Like back in the days when you having a big lip was considered a flaw, now everybody is getting lip injections. Back in the days when I used to be like teased for having like bigger eyes, nowadays like persons are using filters to make their eyes look bigger. You can't even follow social media because whatever is the trend keeps on changing, and you can't always fit in the trend. So sometimes if you feel like being on social media is making you feel worse about yourself or the work that you put in, it's best to step away from it. You don't have to be like me and like be almost completely disengaged with it, but it can be good sometimes. Another thing about social media is that sometimes it's toxic. Like that if you slip, you slide with these people. Like cancel culture, it's not like fully real in the sense that people aren't really like fully cancelled a lot of times, because they continue, some are able to continue have a large following and so on, but like the smaller persons tend to be cancelled permanently, it seems. I'm not talking about like when people do things that are literally illegal or like completely immoral, like you could go to prison kind of stuff. So yeah, there's so many good things that come with social media, but there's a lot of bad that comes with it too. So I think that the best thing is to know your limits, manage your time, and always focus on stuff that better you in terms of your mind, your physical body, and spiritually. And yeah, I may start to use it a lot more, being that I'm trying to get into YouTube and platforms like Instagram, Twitter. However, I never wanted to get to the point that it affects me so bad that I get depressed by it or start feeling less in myself about it. No. Whenever it gets to that point, I know what to do, and that's turn off the phone and go outside, touch some grass, feel the sun on your face, and remember that social media is only virtual. It's not real. Outside is real. Your friends are real. Your family is real. Okay, so until next time, this has been Life with Ariel and Shy. Love you. God bless.